Okay, let's just dive right in. We have all been there. That one moment that makes you physically cringe, and for some reason, your brain decides to play it on a loop, usually at 3 in the morning. It's a uniquely awful feeling. But what if I told you there's a clear, psychology backed way to finally press stop on that replay button? Well, that's what we're going to get into. So, why does this even happen? Why do these specific memories get so incredibly stuck? It's not a flaw in your character, not at all. It's actually a feature of how our brains are wired to handle a very specific kind of emotional threat. To figure out how to heal it, we first have to understand the wound itself. See, humiliation isn't just being embarrassed or feeling a little awkward. It's a much deeper, more complex emotional experience. And that complexity is exactly why it's so sticky. Humiliation has such a grip on us for a few key reasons. First off, it's a direct attack on our sense of self-worth. This triggers intense shame, which is one of the single hardest emotions for our brain to process. So what does our brain do in response? It gets stuck in a loop, replaying the moment over and over, trying to find a way to fix what happened. We feel totally powerless, and this mental replay is just a desperate attempt to get some of that control back. But listen, here is the most important reframe you need to hear. This feeling, it doesn't cause permanent damage. It's a shock to your system, a really bad one, yeah, but a shock is temporary. It's a shock, not a stain. And because it's a shock, the effects can be undone. You absolutely have the power to reverse it and get your sense of self back. So let's get into the practical toolkit that shows you exactly how to do it. I want you to think of these next steps as a kind of mental first aid kit. These are 3 immediate, actionable tools you can use the second that negative thought loop starts to spin up again. First things first, you need to get specific. Humiliation is often just a blanket term for a whole messy cocktail of other feelings. The first step to calming that storm is to figure out what the actual ingredients are. And usually it's a mix of these 3: anger, shame, and fear. Anger at the situation or the person, shame about what happened, and fear of what it all means for your reputation. Just pausing to identify which one you're feeling most strongly. Okay, right now, this is anger. Or, you know what? That's shame. That's the first step to taking its power away. And look, this isn't just some feel-good idea. It's straight-up neuroscience. Brain scan studies show that just labeling your emotion can reduce activity in your brain's emotional centers by up to 40%. That is huge. Naming it really does start to tame it. Step 2 is all about creating some psychological distance. Humiliation has this little voice, right? And it whispers this toxic lie in your ear. You are the problem. The reality, the core mental shift you have to make, is over on the right. The situation was the problem. You aren't flawed, you were just in a flawed situation. So here's a mantra I want you to actually use. Say it to yourself, maybe even out loud. Something humiliating happened to me. It does not mean anything about me. This isn't about denying what happened, it's about refusing to let it define who you are. Okay, here's a super practical, in-the-moment technique for when that memory starts to replay. You have to interrupt the neural loop. So take a deep breath, and in your head, just yell, stop. Then immediately ground yourself in the present by looking around and naming 3 physical things you can see: a lamp, a book, a window. It forces your brain onto a new, neutral track. So, once you've stopped that immediate downward spiral, it's time to shift gears. This phase isn't just about healing the wound. It's about finding the power that's actually hidden inside of it. And you do that by asking yourself this incredibly powerful question. Instead of focusing on what someone else did, turn the focus inward. What does this experience reveal about your own needs, about your boundaries, about the standards for how you deserve to be treated? Because believe it or not, these painful moments, they can be incredible teachers. They can teach you who not to trust. They show you exactly where you need to build stronger boundaries. They clarify with absolute certainty what behavior you will never tolerate again from anyone. And often, they wake up a strength and a resilience inside you that you never even knew you had. Humiliation can make you feel small. It makes you want to shrink your world. The antidote is to take one small, deliberate action that makes you feel competent and in control again. Finish a task you've been putting off. Organize your desk. Go for a run. Your brain needs a new, positive memory to focus on, and a small win can be just the thing to break that negative emotional chain. Now, for our final and maybe the most freeing shift in perspective.
Let's turn the lens away from ourselves and actually understand the psychology of the person who caused the humiliation. Now, this isn't about excusing them. Not at all. This is about disarming them.
See, people who humiliate others are almost always operating from a place of weakness. They feel insecure, they feel threatened, or they're just desperate for a sense of power. Recognizing this completely depersonalizes the attack. It robs their actions of their power because you suddenly realize their behavior was never a reflection of your worth. It was always, always a projection of their own internal chaos. So, as you start applying these tools and shifting your perspective, what does the road ahead actually look like? Well, the recovery process is pretty predictable, and just knowing what to expect can be incredibly reassuring. You'll know it's working when you start to notice these things. The sharp, painful thoughts will begin to fade, they'll lose their edge. The emotions won't feel so intense. Then one day, you'll realize, hey, that memory isn't replaying anymore. Your confidence will come back, and what that other person thinks will become completely irrelevant. You'll finally understand your own power again. And that's the final crucial takeaway. The act of humiliation says everything about the person doing it and absolutely nothing about the person experiencing it. It is a projection of their instability, not a measurement of your worth. Never, ever forget that.